Hi there and welcome to Teacher Tips. This is where I can share with you some of the strategies that work for me in the ESL classroom so that you can have some greater success in yours. Okay, this week I had 3 groups that needed to learn about the will and going to future forms. So here's how I did it with my groups and here's how you can do it with yours. All right. Now, keeping in mind that in my ESL classrooms, I'm a bit of a theatrical or creative teacher, so you can tone this down for your teaching style or build it up if you're a little bit more theatrical than me. So, when I need to teach the will and going to futures, I often start with a simple question, and I don't give any hints away. I just simply ask my students, so, what are your plans for the weekend? Now you see, I'm not giving away that I'm looking for a going to form and I'm not giving away that I'm looking for a will. So I simply say, what are your plans for the weekend? And I might pick out student X. Normally what I find is that student X will say, okay, I have to clean my house. I have to telephone my friends and I have to go to a birthday party. So my students tend to use have to when they're talking about the future. Now, of course, we understand what that means, but it's a little bit too much about obligation and not really about a planned event or activity. So at this stage, I just leave person X's answers and I make a couple of notes. I go, okay. Then I move to student Y and I say, okay, student Y, what are your plans for the weekend? Now, person Y might say, okay, I will go to a concert with my friends and I will go to the football with my family. Okay, these are also pretty solid answers, but it's not actually the grammar that we're looking for. So at this point, I say, okay, fantastic. And this is when I pull out my calendar and I'll say, okay, this is what I am going to do next week. I'll look at my calendar. Okay, I am going to drive to Blintendorf on Saturday. And here it is in my calendar. I am going to teach in Gera on Tuesday and Wednesday. Look, here it is. And I am going to take my son to the music school on Friday. Look, there it is in my calendar. And so what I'm doing here is that I'm linking a plan that's in my calendar with this sentence going to, this form going to. And I might be a little bit more dramatic about it. So I am going to drive. I am going to visit. I am going to see. Now, it might look a little bit silly doing it here on the camera to you, but in the lesson, you're really making this audio and visual link between going to and the calendar. Okay. Now, by this stage, student X and student Y are probably thinking, what did I say? Oh, what did I? And this is where you start with some positive corrections. You could write up on the board their sentences if you wanted. Or if you don't have a board or if it's a smaller classroom, then you could simply ask them to repeat what they are going to do on the weekend. If they need a bit of extra help, you can say to them, okay, is this organized? Is this confirmed? Do you have your concert tickets? Do you have those football tickets? And if they do, fantastic. All right, I am going to go to the concert. I'm going to see this band. And then with this simple speaking and repeating and repetition and question and answer, your students will start using the form correctly. Bingo. After you've worked with student X and you've worked with student Y, then if you have a larger group, you can start going around the room. Okay, student M, what are you doing next week? Oh, and okay, student Y, what are you doing? And so on. And now you've got your whole group talking and they're all focusing on going to. No, it's pretty easy, hey? But hang on a second. One of your students, student Y, they use the word will. Now, if you really want to focus on that at this point, you come back around to student Y and you repeat what they said. And you say, okay, you will go to the football. Is this a prediction? Do you think you will go? No. Okay, then you can't use will. Is it a promise? And again, you ask your student Y a question. It's not a promise. It's in your calendar. Okay, you can't use will. Then you can say, is it a spontaneous decision? Did you just suddenly decide I will go to the football? No, because you've got your tickets. Okay, you can't use will. And at this point, you can give examples to your group of a spontaneous decision, a prediction, and a promise. And here's where you can write it on the board or on a sheet of paper and show them. This is how we use will for the future. And so what you're doing by asking your students questions is you're getting them to correct themselves and to get it in their heads. I cannot use will in this situation. So what have you done? You've asked your students what their plans are. You've got the information. You've presented this going to form and you've done some friendly corrections. And hey presto, depending on the size of your group, it might take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20, but you've got them talking in the right forms and focused on how we use this time form, this grammar, how we use it correctly, and all without the use of a book. So it's pretty handy. At this point, if you have a course book, you can then focus their attention. And I like to say, all right, let's look at the book now and page 30, blah, blah, and have a look at this exercise. You see what's here? Hey, we did this already. Let's go and read that text. Let's listen to that recording. Let's do these exercises. Amazing. They'll approach these exercises with such confidence that you can basically sit back and go, da, 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 I am a great teacher, because of course you are. All right, there's one more step to this exercise, and you can do this with small groups or large groups. You can adapt it to single students. Now, so far you've got them saying, I am going to, or we are going to. What you can do now is he is, or she is going to. This is how we do it. Let's go back to student X. Hi, student X. What are you going to do on the weekend? Oh, okay. I am going to visit my parents. Fantastic. Then, hey, student X, what is student Y doing on the weekend? So student X asks student Y, hello. Student Y answers. But then you go, oh, sorry, I couldn't hear that. Student X, can you please tell me what is student Y going to do on the weekend? So now student Y turns the sentence around and says, oh, he is going to, what's he going to do? He is going to visit his sister, for example. Excellent. So now you've got, I am going to visit my sister coming from here, and from here, he is going to visit his sister. And you can play around with this depending on the number of students you've got until all of your guys and girls are really happy with all these forms of the going to future. Hey! It's really simple, and you can do this without any resources. It's just a matter of talking and listening and repeating and highlighting and using your hands like I am here. Well, every language teacher uses their hands, I think. All right. This is how we can teach the will and going to futures. Now, one last point. I know we can use the present continuous as our future form. I am visiting my sister on the weekend, and absolutely you can integrate that into this activity. But me personally, I like to use going to as my go-to future form for plans. And if we've got lower intermediate or beginner students, it can be a little tricky at this stage to differentiate between present continuous as a form for current activities and present continuous for a future planned activity. So what I like to do for my beginner or lower intermediates is keep it simple. And then as they progress, then I introduce the present continuous form when they're a little bit more comfortable and confident with English, and then it's easier for them to see the difference. All right, those are my top teacher tips for today. I look forward to your feedback, and if you keep following me on this little YouTube channel, then you'll get more tips as I've got the time and the means to record them. Okay, I wish you a wonderful day and good luck in your English lessons. Bye-bye.